everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Today, we are going to be stuffing approximately $1,000 into several of my envelopes. Now, typically I will stuff approximately $700 on any given payday, but today I had a little extra to work with. So I tried my best to go ahead and make a cash breakdown of everything that I intend to stuff, including the denominations that I'm going to use. Now, typically I will also go ahead and just prep the money. I've already counted it well in advance, so there's no need for me to do it once again on video. One thing that I have found to be a bit annoying is that I will usually go out to the ATM and withdraw the money that way. Unfortunately, the ATMs don't give out $10 bills, and I find myself actually needing those probably a little more than the other denominations that I use. And unfortunately, it means I have to go into the branch, wait in line, and take out the money that way. And it could be a bit of a long process because the branches near me are always chock full of people. And I will also go between two banks on any payday. I personally like to change it up between branches on where I'm going to withdraw my money, just for safety reasons. I tend to probably be a little more anxious than other folks. And I just don't like utilizing the same bank over and over on a very defined schedule. I live in Chicago and crime has been soaring where I am. So for that reason, I get a bit apprehensive and I like to change it up every so often. For my 100 envelope binder, this week I'm going to be stuffing numbers 71 and 96. And I've also changed up my tracker. In a previous video, if you saw, I kind of had some difficulty because the 60s started out in consecutive order, but then they kind of mixed in different numbers. So I was pretty confused for a few minutes before I figured out what was actually going on. So with this new tracker, everything I checked it is in sequential order. Everything is good to go. So it should not have any more problems going forward. So this Post-it, I had left it for myself because as I was reconciling this binder one day, I noticed that slot number 63 did not have the full funds that it needed. And luckily, had I not gone ahead and done that reconciliation on this binder, I probably would have gone the whole challenge and not had realized that I had $10 missing. So just some words of advice: maybe go through your binders every so often, or as I've seen other YouTubers do, they'll go ahead and each and every time that they're adding to their folders or their envelopes, they're going ahead and they're making sure that those amounts are in there. So probably a good practice for me as well to do. Now moving on to my long-term and short-term binder, I'm going to be filling in several of my savings funds. And I am not sure if you all noticed, but I have several emergency funds going at one time. And what I had actually decided with this was that I was going to have emergency funds of $2,000, $1,000, $500, and $300 in each one. So each envelope was going to have up to that specific denomination. The purpose of that was to allow me to go ahead and, if a purchase was no more than, let's say, $250, I didn't want to grab it from my $2,000 fund. I would just grab it from my $300 emergency fund. If something was $400, I would go ahead and take out from my $500 fund. And the reason why I did that was just because I personally enjoy stretching out my money in many, many categories. A lot of folks will choose to kind of lump sum their savings into specific envelopes. And for me personally, that just doesn't work. I'm not sure if I am a formal OCD person. I probably think that I am. And just by looking at my videos, I can kind of see when I'm trying to make bills in a very specific order or making sure they're facing all the same way. It just kind of gets to me. So probably do have some level of OCD. And that's why I just need to map out my funds in very, very specific amounts and denominations, very specific envelopes. I don't do well with putting things in a lump sum and then kind of probably writing out how much will go towards a specific expense. It just doesn't work for me. I've tried it before and I see that for me, this is just the best way that it functions for me. And I can stick with this very easily, and it brings me more peace because I would love to not have to spend from these envelopes. But realistically, we all know that emergencies are going to come up at some point in time, and it would just, I guess, ease my anxiety to go ahead and just have several different emergency fund envelopes going at any given time. I see a lot of folks asking questions, typically in the Facebook groups that I am in. And a lot of the same question that I see is, how many envelopes do any of the members have going at one time? And there is always a variety of different amounts that I see. I see some members having maybe about 5 envelopes going, and one may be their emergency fund, one may be a specific sinking fund, and maybe for the kids and holidays and things like that. I have seen some members say that they have up to probably 30 envelopes going at one time. And probably I'm kind of in that 30 range. Again, just because I do like to spread my savings out among many different envelopes and for various reasons. My goal with my long-term and short-term savings binder, I believe I have about 12 envelopes going, and my goal is to fund this binder first. So my savings challenges, whatever that I finish, will first be placed into this binder, because this is pretty much if sugar honey iced tea hit the fan, I would at least be covered a bit. So this is the purpose of this one binder. I need to get this filled first and foremost. I have probably been very, very strict with my spending. I've probably been a little more strict than what I've seen other folks, in that I have been spending much time at home, and I will pretty much only go to work, or I will go for much needed errands for like groceries or putting gas in the car. And it's because I am overcoming a spending problem, and I used to go out and shop for fun versus for needs. And the best place for me to be is at home. I pretty much will only keep a certain amount of cash in my bank accounts just for bills that I need to pay electronically. But other than that, I don't trust myself yet. I have not gotten to a place where I can trust that I will be okay at this point. So it's going to take some time. We'll get there. Now, moving on to my savings challenges. I do have 2 different binders of savings challenges going aside from my 100 envelope challenge. And the reason why I have 2 different envelopes for savings challenges is because I pretty much organize them in such a way where one binder will have higher savings challenges, which can be up to a few $100s once they're done. And then I have a different binder that's I set up that will be lower savings challenges that can be up to maybe 30 up to maybe $150 to be saved once they're done. And the reason why I did that was because in times where I can't save as much, I can easily just have a binder with smaller amounts kind of set up so I can at least put something towards it. For me, I find that putting money in my savings challenge binders is what gives me a lot of motivation and momentum to keep going, because I do very well in seeing those little icons getting colored in and getting checked off. And I am less apt to kind of go in there and pull money out for something because I just cannot stand them not being completed. I need to see them completed. I want to see them completed, and I want to get those funds into my high priority long-term and savings binder as soon as I possibly can. So that way I can bulk that up and then I can move on into saving towards my sinking funds. So maybe that would actually be a good idea for some folks. Maybe consider doing something similar. So that way, if you do have moments where you can't save as much as you had hoped, adding in those smaller savings challenges would at least allow you to kind of put something away. Even if it's $10, $5, $20 here and there, something is always going to be better than nothing. And it's always going to help you in the end, no matter what. The last thing you would want to do is find yourself not being able to contribute to a savings challenge because maybe you need $30 or $40 or $50, so on and so forth, and you don't have that. For some folks, it can be a little bit disappointing. It can kind of, bring you feeling a little down and out a bit because then you don't feel like you're making any progress towards your savings. So just keep that in mind. I really do think that these smaller savings challenges would be very beneficial, especially if you're on low income. It would be great for you. My spouse actually works in education, so he has summers off, and pretty soon he's going to have the summer off within the next month or 2, which means our income will be halved. We're trying to save right now for emergencies, and then down the line, once that's done and I'm working on my sinking funds, I want to also start putting away towards our 3 to 6 month savings, so that way when he does have summers off, I'm not pulling from emergency funds or anything like that. We will have kind of savings already designated and put away for those times where he's not getting a paycheck. And here you'll find me looking and trying to figure out which of these icons I'm going to color in. And the reason for that is whenever I get a few dollars, I won't automatically record each and every stuffing. I will typically record my payday cash stuffings. So as I get a dollar here and there, or I find some change or anything like that, or if my spouse gives me a dollar or so from the tips that he's made at his second job, I'll just go ahead and just kind of fill it in. So sometimes it may just kind of throw off my cash breakdown that I've created a bit, because again, wherever I can stuff, I'm just going to continue putting in money. I won't hold it on the side or wait. I'm just going to add it in there, so I'm less likely to spend it. That's kind of where I am. I am a notorious spender, and it took me a very, very long time to realize that. I was probably in a lot of denial and justifying, my spending, because I typically spent on things for my home, or I spent for my children, or I spent for my house. And that was my way of saying, hey, it's okay, to go ahead and use the, whatever money I have left in my account, because I'm not technically using it for me. I'm using it for my husband, my home, or my children. And that was a really big no for me. And that's something that I really had to look back on and kind of accept and say, okay, I can't do that anymore. I need to start saving money instead of spending it. If I had $3 in the bank account, believe me, I was finding a way to spend it on anything I could, whether it was a candy bar at the store. If it was money sitting in my checking, that money would be gone. And looking back on it now, I personally don't know how my husband and I survived for so long as we have, because quite literally, I think we would have been just one paycheck away from disaster. So the fact that we've made it so long without anything huge happening, with our paychecks or our jobs or with our health, it's really truly amazing. That's something I'm thankful that I kind of can look back on now and say, wow, I made some pretty big mistakes and some bad decisions. And, I'm very happy that I could look back on that and learn from it. And now I'm kind of course correcting. I am in my late 30s. I just turned 39. So I kind of look back a bit with remorse and regret, because I kind of wish I would have did this 5 or 10 years ago. I'm kind of kicking myself thinking how much money I could have saved in the course of 10 years. And I just kind of threw it all away frivolously without really thinking about it, because I thought I wasn't getting a good income or we weren't making enough. And it was pretty much, once we got down to the numbers, we just were not being responsible with our money. I was not being a good steward of our finances, because I'm the one who manages the accounts and our budget binders, our savings, our bills. And yeah, I'm essentially kicking myself, but I am thankful that at least I've learned. It may be a little bit later than what I've wanted, but at least I did learn. And I would love to hear if anyone is kind of in a similar boat as me, kind of look back and you spent a lot of time and kind of gone, and you realize it now and you're course correcting. Here I also got stuck a little bit with my math. Again, my math just was not mathing. It was not adding up. I think I had $1 over than what I was supposed to. And I believe at this point I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of start fresh. I'm just going to count. We'll just add in whatever I'm going to add in for this week, and we will just kind of put it in. I didn't realize also that my calculator was a bit too far off to the right, so you couldn't see the numbers that I was really punching in or what the total was. So apologies. I'll try and make sure that I put that in the frame for next time. I also nearly forgot to go in and finalize my 2024 challenge for April. I think I realized that at the very last minute. So I kind of went in and I took some of my kind of weekly savings money for my wallet, and I kind of utilized that to finish up this challenge for April. So I have to make sure that each and every pay period, I make sure that I count for this 2024 challenge, because I think I have this one in my high savings challenge binder, and so I didn't think to look at it for this week. Now I'm going to go in and we are going to stuff my envelopes for my wallet. And I have a variety of envelopes here. Food is usually what I would kind of stuff for any meals that I would have while I'm at work in downtown. But this week I didn't have any extra to kind of put in there. I'm trying to be better about taking lunch with me or keeping things already at the office so I don't have to spend any money. I think my kind of self-care that I spend on myself would be one Starbucks coffee a day, and I will kind of essentially drink a grande Starbucks drink for a few hours, and believe it or not, it kind of gets me through my day until I can get home, and then I'm ready to cook and have a good meal. If I find myself eating lunch in downtown, I will not want to cook when I get home because I am full, I'm stuffed. The last thing I want to do is cook a full meal, and it just doesn't help me out. So I kind of just go ahead and we'll have a coffee and we'll wait, and then I will just cook when I get home. Now, friends, one good thing about having binders with a variety of denominations is that you can play your own banker. You will always be able to make your own change because you will just be able to kind of swap notes of money as you need to. So that's kind of what I did here. As I was saving for my gas and my groceries and so on and so forth, I found myself needing to kind of break bills a bit. So that's where my binders come in handy. I can go ahead and just take from there and just kind of swap them out as I need to. And it is very, very helpful. So that's a great thing. So here for my transportation, this is going to be my parking. Parking in downtown Chicago for early bird is $16. I think that's kind of universal. Wherever you are, you might kind of find a parking garage that may be $1 or $2 cheaper, but it's a bit farther. For $1 or $2, I'm just going to park closer to my job wherever I can. And right here with the extra that I had kind of sitting out in my tray, I just added that to groceries. So we brought it up to about $128 for the pay period. We'll see if I can make it. I'm not sure, but I am going to go in with a list and, a plan, and we'll see what happens, and hopefully I'll be able to make it. Thanks for watching, everyone.